Welcome to Bridal Entertainment's Supernatural Spotlight, the weekly series where we review some of the most haunting and terrifying places in the country. This week we are taking a look at the demonic Bellaire House. In the city of Bellaire, Ohio, sits a two-story, 2,500 square foot house, atop of a small grassy hill just across the street from the banks of the Ohio River. It is on this land that battles from the French-Indian War were fought from 1754 to 1763, and where a coal mine explosion took place and killed 42 people in 1893. The Bellaire House sits directly above the land in which this coal mine slithers under. The tragedy and circumstances of this home certainly add to it a certain proclivity towards paranormal phenomena. The house itself would be built a half-century before the mine explosion and fire, in 1847, by a man named Jacob Hetherington. Jacob owned coal mines in the area and operated a relatively successful business. However, the company's success would falter after being passed on to his son Alex after Jacob Hetherington's death. Alex's gross mismanagement of the company was caused by him beginning to experience what would be the first of the paranormal phenomena in the horrifying Bellaire House. He began to see things that were not actually there, hear voices coming from empty rooms, began to have epileptic seizures, and stated that demons were trying to kill him. He was eventually found incompetent and put away in a lunatic asylum. He stayed there for the rest of his life. Stewardship of the company was then passed on to his daughter Lyde, but only a few short years later she would die in the Bellaire House, in a room now known as the Seance Room, which was used as a place to communicate with spirits. Before Lyde's death, her brother Edwin, who was returning from his military service, took up residence in the house to stay with his sister. But after her death, he became equally distraught with her loss as he was obsessed with attempting to reach out to her. He opened his doors to anyone he thought could help, psychics, mediums, or occult scholars. He attempted many rituals and spiritual ceremonies, and eventually became completely engrossed himself with the study of the occult and afterlife. It is said that his grief and desire to communicate with his deceased relatives blinded his judgment, and his attempts to reach out invited spirits and opened portals into the house. It is reported by the current manager of the Bellaire House that there are 17 portals in and on the property, and through attempts to speak to Edwin Hetherington, he unknowingly opened these portals. From these portals, it is said that many spirits and entities have entered the home, which is what makes it the paranormal hotspot it is. One of these spirits is a girl named Emily, or something portraying itself as Emily. Many paranormal investigators have reached out to this entity with much success. It is believed that Emily is truly a demon in disguise that has infested the house, exacting its cruelty on anyone who steps inside. There is also a story of a servant at the home, reportedly having a daughter in the building. Horrifyingly, this child was lured into the upstairs and jumped out of a window, straight from the Woman in Black movie. This would happen again to another little child, and to a paranormal investigator years later, who was drawn to the attic and then proceeded to jump out of the window to the ground below. Later on in 2005, Kristen Lee and her family would move into the house, which they bought at a great deal. It wouldn't be long until the Lee family realized why the home was sold as inexpensively as it was. She would hear voices, items would seemingly disappear, and she would hear footsteps in the attic. In a horrifying report by Kristen herself, she was napping on the living room couch when she awoke to a man standing in the room. She then witnessed the man walk away and vanish before her very eyes. Lee said, quote, "I was not sure if I was dreaming or had actually seen a ghost. I looked around the room and everything was in its place. However, the room was freezing cold. I saw my breath." Kristen initially blamed stress and paranoia, being a mental health professional and a master-level psychologist. But activity continued, and she began to believe in the idea that she, her family, and her house were being affected by paranormal forces. The activity would begin to get much more frequent and violent, and in one horrifying account, Kristen saw a dark mass approach her and her dog, pick it up, and throw it against the wall. This activity forced the Lees out of the home. Attempts to rent the house to tenants failed, as everyone who moved in left soon after due to fear of the house. Kristen even offered the village of Bellaire to purchase the home for only $1, but the offer was refused. The activity, violent and dangerous in nature, became infamous in Bellaire. No one who had any prior knowledge of the house stopped at nothing to distance themselves from it. While the locals shun the home, many outsiders flock towards it. Most nights it is occupied by nightly renters who want to explore and investigate the home. It has been featured on many popular TV shows and online videos. In total, the paranormal evidence that has been captured at the Bellaire House is interesting just as much as it is horrifying. This 150-year-old home continues to build on its supernatural reputation to this day. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far through the video, please consider subscribing to the channel, as well as dropping a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments.